Thank you all very, very much. And a very special thank you to Aaron Kinsey for that great introduction, but also we thank him for his public service twice. Public service on the State Board of Education, covering such an enormous territory, but covering such an important job. But also his service in the United States military, the mightiest military in the history of the entire world. I want to thank Alex Fairley for his incredible comments up here, but also for his stance and his position. You know, one thing, if you want to change things in life, if you want to have an impact in life, you have to take a stance. Think about this. I see a lot of winning ribbons. They're not called ribbons. What are they called? Banners. Y'all want a whole lot of stuff on the banners. I'm going to guess that the people who won those banners, they were not on the sidelines. They were on the field. They were on the court. They were in action. And that's what it takes to win something, to achieve something. And that's what Alex is helping us do. Someone who's been through that process and has seen it for herself is Roxanne Cheek. I had the privilege to get to meet her earlier tonight, and you can see she's just so effusive. How could a child not be happy seeing her in the morning? And I will dovetail her into some remarks I have here momentarily about another educator who spent her life in public schools and then realized she, as an educator, had a choice. But let me introduce one last person here, and that's Mandy Drogan, who's right over my right shoulder. So Mandy Drogan she works with the Texas Public Policy Foundation. They are a think tank, if you would, and an advocacy organization in Austin, Texas that is helping to lead the effort statewide to make sure that we can get across the finish line. We can put a banner up in the Texas Capitol showing that we are going to empower parents. She is an incredible mother of three and a powerful advocate for empowering parents. And I tell you about her because she is not going to be able to tell you about herself tonight. We have been on a tour crisscrossing the state of Texas. And we were in Conroe, we were in Austin, and her voice just ran out. She has laryngitis. She's perfectly healthy, so she could be here, but she just cannot talk. If she did, if you heard her talk for 1 minute, you said, "Governor, please get her off the stage." But I want you to know the powerful role that she plays, and she'll be around, and she'll be more than happy to try to chit-chat with some of you later on, but I wanted to recognize her. So, as was pointed out, in the state of Texas, there may be no day more important than this date. One thing the United States stands for, one thing Texas stands for, is something that burns in the heart of each of us, and that's freedom and independence. And it was this day Texas declared its own independence. We didn't want somebody else dictating our lives. We wanted to choose our own pathway, which we have successfully charted. But think about it. If the governor could be anywhere for Independence Day, I should be at a place where I'm talking about freedom. The issue tonight is freedom, the freedom of parents to choose what is best for their child. That is why we are gathering here tonight. So I feel almost like Roxanne And I missed Ryan also, and I'm not seeing him now. There he is. Ryan, I also want to thank you for your comments, which were fantastic also. Give it up for Ryan. But I, too, am a person who has profound respect for the incredibly important role that public education plays. I went to public schools my entire life in communities far smaller than the Amarillo area. I don't know if you've ever heard of Longview, Texas. Something, okay, pretty good. Half the room has. Longview, Texas is where I went to elementary school. Then I went to junior high and high school in Duncanville, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, but both of which were far smaller than this. And also as a governor, as the Attorney General, I've been so actively involved in our public schools, and we have a goal for our schools, and that is for them to continue to advance. And so I'm always proud to brag about our public schools in Texas. And I can tell you as we gather tonight, Texas ranks #1 in the United States of America for the most blue ribbon schools of any state in our country. We have one of the highest high school graduation rates of any state in the United States of America. And as Aaron pointed out, I pointed out very two important historical facts, and that is that I have provided more funding for public education than any other governor, and more funding for teacher pay raises than any other governor in the history of our great state. Those who know the way public education works, it kind of works on a per-pupil funding basis. Per-pupil funding is also at an all-time high. And the good news, if there's any public educators out there, this session we will use billions of dollars more to provide even more funding for public education and teacher pay raises this legislative session. But all that said, the point that was made earlier is spot on. It would be wrong to say that more money always leads to better results. It simply doesn't. Back when I was growing up in Longview and Duncanville, I got to tell you, we were taught the basics, reading, writing, math, and science, but maybe more important than that, we were inspired by our country's founding and how it stands apart from the rest of the world as a beacon for liberty and opportunity. One of the problems we have today is it seems like children today are not being taught the way that you and I were being taught. And an example was given to us just 2 nights ago when we were in Conroe, Texas. And it was the explanation for why a teacher left a public school and went to the private school that we were at that night. She loved being a teacher. She loved teaching at the public school that she was teaching at. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when she saw a history teacher at her school teaching students to disrespect the flag of the United States of America. That's disgraceful. That's not what education is for. And it's disrespect for those who have served. And by God, as your governor, I will not allow your taxpayer dollars to be spent to hate America or to dislike our country. I couldn't tell, but the impression I got from Roxanne is that at the schools that you were at, in the public schools you were at, it sounded like the school day did not begin with the pledge. No. Which, that's shocking. The first thing we should do is the Pledge of Allegiance. Every school I've been to, they do the pledge. And I don't know what was going on in your schools, Roxanne, but you're at the right school now. I can tell you that much. Parents are angry about their children not being exposed to things like reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to begin the day. They're angry when they hear teachers saying to disrespect their own country. You know what our children should be taught? If I could reduce to one simple thing in a public school that we must teach our children, it would be this one thing. How do people come here, gather together in 13 colonies, and somehow turn that into the strongest, most powerful, most influential country in the history of the entire world? Teach kids how to do that, and then how to perpetuate that, and that will be a success. But we're failing in that regard. I hear frustrations from so many parents about so many different things, including, of course, the anger that they dealt with during the times of COVID. Having their kids be required to wear a mask, but most importantly, most frustratingly, watching their kids be forced to learn from home and then watching them struggle and fall behind right in front of their very own eyes. That would break a parent's heart. And then there was this story that I learned the other night when I was in Conroe. There's a story that's repeated time and again. It's a story about a mother who was frustrated about the Conroe Independent School District. And for those who don't know Conroe or where it is, I need to give you this setting. Conroe is a suburb just north of Houston. And it literally is one of the most conservative areas of the entire state of Texas. I know some people here think Amarillo may be conservative. You know Conroe. Conroe is very conservative. But this mother, however, she had a son with autism that she felt Conroe ISD was setting her son up for failure. And she said something every parent has either said or every parent has ever felt. No one, I'm quoting her, no one will fight for my kids like I will. She had a need to fight for her own kid, and the school was not doing it for her. And she needed to get her child out of that school into a better situation. But candidly, of all those things, the worst thing that I hear happening in remote rural areas, as well as large urban areas, is the wokeism that children are being taught. All these crazy ideas that's destroying the mindset of our children. And it's being pushed on our kids. Listen, schools should not push woke agendas on our kids. Our schools are for education, not indoctrination. And we will not let that happen. We need to go back and reform curriculum. We need to get back to those basics. And we must empower parents. That's the solution. Parents deserve access to curriculum, to school libraries, to what their children are being taught. And we will ensure that through my parental Bill of Rights that we will pass this session. No one knows what's better. No one knows what is better for their own child's success than their parents. It just makes sense. And when it comes to education, parents matter. It's that simple. Parents deserve education freedom. Without that education freedom, those parents are hindered in being able to help their own child succeed. That must change this year. The way to do that is with school choice, giving parents the freedom to choose the education pathway that's best for their child. And we are proposing doing that this session by using education savings accounts. We've seen these accounts work very well in other states. We've also seen them work right here in Texas. I created education savings accounts for special needs students, and it worked so well that a bipartisan supermajority of the Texas legislature has now codified it into law and are now seeking to add more money to the program. Now what we want to do is to expand that program to empower every parent to choose the school that is best for their child. That is their right. Now listen, I know all the arguments against this. We've heard them plenty of times. People say that school choice is going to defund schools and is going to end high school football as we know it. Well, charter schools have proved that to be false. Remember this. Charter schools began in Texas about 20 years ago. When charter schools were allowed by law, the same arguments were used. They said it was going to lead to a defunding of schools, put schools out of business, and end high school football in Texas. For one, no school has been defunded. As we've already pointed out, schools are getting more funding than ever before. Per pupil funding is higher than it's ever been. So schools have not been defunded. And I can tell you for a fact, high school football is better than it's ever been in the state of Texas. I can tell you that because this past year, Duncanville won the state 6A football championship. Football is good in Texas right now. And to be clear, under this program, the state legislature is proposing that we will fund all public schools fully for every student that they have. Another thing is the success that we've seen in other states proves false. This notion that school choice is going to lead to worse results for public schools. The opposite is true. Let me give you the most profound example. These same arguments were taking place 21 years ago, back in 2002 in Florida, when Florida was first going through the process of implementing their school choice program. At the time Florida did this, students who were classified as low-income students, they ranked 33rd in the United States of America on standardized tests. After 20 years of their school choice program, the low-income students in Florida, they no longer rank 33rd. They rank number 1 in the United States of America on standardized tests. That, by the way, should be our goal. Think about this. Maybe you're an educator, if you're a parent, whatever your situation may be, what is the goal in Texas for education? Identify that goal for me. And it can't be something that, well, that we're going to make all A's this semester or something like that. The goal for education in Texas should be what our goal has been for the economy and jobs. I just got an award, it's called the Governor's Cup, yesterday, because Texas ranked number 1 in the United States as the number 1 state for new economic development projects, and Texas added more jobs than any other state in the United States last year. Texas has the number 1 economy in the United States. I'm telling you right now, we should expect the same thing for education. We should be number 1 in education in the United States of America. My goal is to make sure that we lay the groundwork, just like Florida did in 2002. We want to lay the groundwork for one single goal that we must all be in on, and that's for Texas to be number 1 in education. To do that, it takes what several people talked about from this podium earlier. It takes competition. These banners were not won without competition. It takes competition to bring out the best in all of us. That competition will lead to better results for the kids whose parents choose a different school. It will lead to better results for the school that they left from. Everybody is going to get better. And let me tell you something. Contrary to what some people say, because one thing I know when this issue has come up in the past, some legislators say, well, listen, it sounds like a good idea, the legislators say it, but listen, my folks back home, they just don't support it. That's been completely debunked. Because we had a referendum on the ballot this past November, and that referendum passed overwhelmingly this past year, especially among Republicans. We let out the issue about school choice. And about 80% of Republicans and overwhelming majorities of every category I'm going to give to you support it. If you're a Republican, Democrat, or Independent, majorities of each of those support school choice. If you're black, white, Hispanic, or Asian American, you support school choice. If you're urban, suburban, or rural, strong majorities support school choice. The time for school choice is now across the entire state of Texas. This issue is so vital to our state. I made it an emergency item this session, which means we must pass this law this session. Now, to get that done, it's going to require your help. Know this. Every single day, legislators are lobbied by teachers' unions saying, don't change the system. Keep the status quo. Don't defund our schools. You'll end high school football, whatever the talking point is. You know who they need to hear from? They need to hear from you, the people whose voice matters. You're the one who votes, right? You're the one who elect these people, and your voice is the one who matters the most. You can hire or fire me. You can hire or fire any elected official. You're the one with the real power in this, and you need to stand up. To do that, I need you to reach down. In everyone's seat was one of these. Could look gold on that side or blue and white on this side. And I see them under your chairs right there. That's how I knew they were under you. And there's a reason why we have these. It empowers you for parental empowerment. You can go on this scan code, or there are telephone numbers as well as email addresses on one side of the card. This is, I know this doesn't happen here, but this would be your cheat sheet for you to be empowered to make a contact. So you can contact your legislator and be respectful. Don't put strong-arm demands. Just very respectfully, let them know where you stand. Because you're a constituent, and your voice matters. Your voice counts just as much as anybody else's. And let me just close with this. A personal story. To highlight how very important this is, that we all come together. When I was going to school, I played football on those football teams just like the other kids did. And many of you, maybe through my elections, have learned why it is that I'm in a wheelchair. Some people still ask. They don't know. When I was 26 years old, I was living in Houston, Texas, and I went out jogging one July day. The day I was out jogging, a massive tree taller than the roof in this room crashed down onto my back and fractured my vertebrae in my spinal cord, leaving me paralyzed for the rest of my life, never being able to walk again. A lot of people who face crushing physical tragedies like that, they may want to stay in a hospital bed. They may be depressed and stay in bed at home. They may be fearful about stepping out and doing something. But I decided one fundamental principle. I would not let my life be defined by my circumstances. Instead, I would define how I would respond to the challenge I faced in life. And by adopting that attitude, fighting every single day my pathway forward, it was after that I went on to become a Supreme Court justice, a Texas Attorney General, and now the governor of the greatest state in the United States of America. My point is this: we all have a challenge. Everybody in this room has a challenge because we're all Texans. And we have the challenge of doing a better job of educating our kids. We have the challenge to be ranked #1 for educating our kids. And I cannot do that alone. I need you to stand with me every step of the way to get us across the finish line and get this passed. Empower parents, make our kids #1 for education in the great state of Texas. So thank you all, and God bless you all. And I have one last official piece of business to do, and that is I brought with me a proclamation from the state of Texas recognizing San Jacinto Christian Academy in hosting Parent Empowerment Night right here in Amarillo, Texas, and this goes to Roxanne Cheek.
Thank you, Governor Abbott. Man, Roxanne, you've only been here a year and you already got one of those awards? Man, just think what she's going to do in 5 years. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. That was awesome. Music to my ears, and I know everybody here feels the same. So just want to acknowledge Governor Abbott and his team and all of the people that helped put this together. We have our SJCA Board of Trustees here. We appreciate you guys helping us steer the ship. So we appreciate you guys. We appreciate Mr. Fairley speaking and Mr. Nash and all the kids that performed for us here, as well as Mrs. Cheek. So we do have a gift for the governor and his team, or some gifts. So we'd like to bring those up now. I'm not sure which direction they're coming from, but yeah, coming from all directions. Yes, and thank you, Mr. Kinsey, as well. Yes, sir. All right, y'all come on up. Don't be shy. All right, give these guys a hand as they bring them over. All right, awesome. So, okay, guys, as we wrap up here tonight, we're going to be having a photo opportunity with all of the students. Yes, the student who's excited about the photo op. All right, good. I see my daughter up there. She's excited. Okay, so listen, you guys are going to get a photo op. The students